This training exercise was put together to help train medical response people and injured loggers on how to rescue an injured climber in the tree. This particular climber simulated a leg injury. Medical response people were notified. They were not informed of what the situation was. They arrived on scene thinking that they would just use a ladder to rescue this injured climber in the tree. It's always a good idea, as the EMS people are responding, to pass on information as to what the conditions of the accident site are and what they're going to need in the rescue process. The rural fire department showed up hoping to use this ladder. However, it didn't take them long to figure out that the ladder was going to be too short. In this particular situation, one of the local loggers was working in the area. This logger was experienced in climbing and volunteered to use his equipment and go up the tree and rescue the injured climber. As the climber is going up the tree, you can see a pass rope and an extra climbing rope. The pass rope will be used to lower the injured climber down, and the extra lanyard will be used to cut around the injured climber so that the rescuer can get above the person and get his rope to put through a block and or a limb and then attach to the injured logger's climbing gear. The climber is now cutting around the injured logger's feet, attempting to get above him. Now that the climber is above him, he can take his pass rope and put through the pass block that is hanging in the tree. The new forest activities rules require that before the climber leaves the ground, that the crew have a plan on what they're going to do if the climber is injured in the tree. On this particular situation, the block was hung ahead of time to use in an emergency situation. The other end of the pass rope is secured around a stump with approximately a wrap and a half. The tension is taken out of the pass rope, and the injured climber is lowered gently to the ground. The climber is kept in an upright position. While being lowered, this particular type of climbing gear is very helpful and safe when lowering a person out of a tree. The medical personnel on the ground are practicing getting an injured person packaged and ready for an air hoist. It has been determined that the helicopter is needed to hoist this individual out of the woods to get to medical attention as soon as possible. The injured person is put in an ambulance, vital signs are taken, and the packaging process is completed. Once the injured person is stable, then is transferred over to the landing zone that has been predetermined by the ground personnel. A good landing zone is very important when doing an air rescue. Lines, power lines, guy lines, standing timber are all hazards that need to be dealt with when doing an air hoist. When the Coast Guard helicopter arrives, he's going to send down a rope with a sandbag on it for the ground personnel to get a hold of. You want to make sure and let the sandbag hit the ground to avoid any type of electronic shock. Once you have the sandbag in your hand, pull it over. The other end is attached to the stretcher, and by using the rope you can pull the stretcher over to where the ground personnel are, and the transfer can be made. The Coast Guard only uses their hoisting equipment because it's certified and approved in an air hoist situation. You can see the downdraft is very severe. You want to make sure your hard hats or any other PPE equipment that you're wearing is secured. Also, brush, limbs, rocks are a real hazard blowing around, so the cleaner your landing zone is, the less debris you have blowing around, striking the workers on the ground. Packaging is very important when doing an air hoist. The person being hoisted wants to be secured in the basket quite well to avoid anybody from falling out. As the injured climber arrives in the helicopter, it is being determined as to which trauma center the injured person needs to be transported to. The Coast Guard has the capability of transporting into these trauma centers, or the Coast Guard can land at another predetermined landing zone and transfer the patient to some other type of air ambulance, and they could transport him to a trauma center also.